the tape for this, our main event of the evening. We introduce the champion, Chris, the West Side Strangler Brennan. Let's get it on!
What's up, guys? We are back to go over the UFC 290 in Las Vegas this weekend.
Yeah.
Super exciting card. Should be awesome. We're going to start with one fight on the undercard.
Because you can't not.
Yeah, I've got to cover it. I want to cover just the main card, but they put Robbie Lawler on the undercard, so we'll have to cover it.
Can we talk about the fact that Bo Nickel is still headlining or is still above Robbie Lawler on a card?
Yeah. What's he? How many fights does he have?
He's 4-0.
4-0. Yeah.
I think 3 of them are in the UFC, and then it was the one on, was it Contender Series or Ultimate? It was one of those.
Yeah, Contenders. He fought twice in the Contenders. They didn't give him as a contract after his first one. He had to fight again. I think he only has one fight in the actual UFC, correct?
Let me look. I thought maybe he had 2, but let's see. No, you're right.
Yeah.
2 in the Contender Series, 1 in IFC.
Yeah. And then one in the UFC.
Yeah, so
he's got a 7-0 guy. Really, he's not gonna have a lot of problems until he gets to the tougher guys.
Let's go back and hit Robbie first.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I got you all excited. I'm sorry, It's my fault. So it's Robbie Lawler, Nico Price.
Yeah. So I guess you're saying it's Robbie Lawler's retirement fight.
Yeah. That's what it was announced, at least. We'll see. But that's
Robbie's always been a fan favorite. You know, I've always liked him. I got to hang out with him for a little bit in a hot tub at Mandalay Bay in Vegas a long time ago with Tim Sylvia. Super cool. He was part of Militich's team, but he's just always been a dog, man. He had like a okay initial career in the UFC.
Yeah. Then
left, went to Strikeforce. Killed it in the Strikeforce, came back and had like a resurgence in his career in the UFC, and it was so cool to see. And you know, he won the belt, right? Yeah, he won the belt.
I think he did.
And I believe he lost it to Woodley, and I think that's how Woodley ended up with the belt. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, it's his retirement fight. I'm glad. You know. He's kind of getting to that point as well. His chin hasn't gone anywhere, but
neither is his heart.
No, he's definitely not. Nico Price is very tough. You know, I believe he's a guy that has finishes from his back, like with strikes from his back. He's
strikes from his back.
Yeah, he's throws some. I think it's the same guy.
Is that a 6'12" elbow?
Something like that. Elbows, knees, I guess just elbows.
Okay.
I'm not positive it's him, but he's a tough guy. I hope Robbie pulls it off, you know, and is able to walk away with a win. We'll see.
Robbie in his last 6 fights is 1-5.
Yeah.
He's lost to RDA, Ben Askren, Colby Covington, Neil Magny. He's got a win against Nick Diaz in 2021, and then Brian Barberena.
Has anyone finished him besides Ben Askren?
Yeah, Barberena did. TKO. Nick Diaz, TKO. It says retirement. I don't know if that was Nick's.
He retired Nick Diaz. Or that was Nick coming out of retirement.
Yeah, then it goes back. Woodley KO'd him.
Yeah, that was I believe that was the belt. Who do you fight before Woodley?
Carlos Condit.
Who before that?
Rory.
Maybe he didn't. Who before that?
Johnny Hendricks.
Yes. So that's where he got the belt.
Okay. Split decision. That went all 5 rounds.
Yeah, they fought before that also, or just once?
No, he did. You're right. A couple years before that, he lost to Hendricks.
Yeah.
UFC 171, and then redeemed it in UFC 181.
Who was between those two?
What? UFC 181 and UFC 171 were in the same year, March and December. Okay, that makes sense. Matt Brown and Jake Ellenberg were in between them.
Yeah.
So,
anyway, Robbie's a stud, man. I hope he's able to pull off a W on the way out, but I don't know. How old is Nico Price?
Nico Price, the hybrid, is 33.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah,
That's
and
typically your prime.
Although he's coming off no cut, he's actually He's got a loss to Philip Rowe, a loss to Alex Oliveira, a loss to Michael Pereira, no contest to Cowboy, and a loss to Vicente Luque. So
who's his last win?
Alex Oliveira.
Okay.
UFC Fight Night.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll see. I'm pulling for Rory or for
Robbie.
For Robbie. I say Rory because yes, we just talked about they have the greatest fight in UFC history. If you've never seen it, you must.
You just go look on YouTube. That fight is literally epic. All right, main card. Now we'll get back to Bo Nickel and Valentin Woodburn. This is a short fight for Woodburn.
It is going to be a short fight for Woodburn.
Yeah, sorry, short notice is what I meant to say. This guy's never fought in the UFC before. His last win was August of 2022 in Combat Night Pro out of Tallahassee.
Right. So they snagged this guy up last minute. They were looking for a fighter. He fit the bill, right? 7-0, so he's got a good record. Hasn't fought anybody, hasn't fought anywhere, but Bo needed an opponent when his opponent fell out, so here we are. Like I said before, he's asking for fights that he knows they're not going to give him so he can play the part of the heel, right? He talks trash saying he wants the top guys. He probably won't have a lot of problems until he gets into the top 15 guys.
Okay.
He's going to have more problems than he imagines in the top 5 guys.
Yeah.
But he'll have fights in the top 15 guys. He's not just going to submit guys easily in the top 15 guys, He may get takedowns. He'll be fighting to keep them down. He'll be fighting, first fighting off submissions depending who it is. But he's not just going to take everyone down and sub them or beat them up as well as he thinks. I know his wrestling is phenomenal, but even his last guy defended the first takedown, and then he headbutt him? Was a headbutt in that fight and got the takedown and ended up beating him. But he stuffed the initial takedown, and that guy was no one on the list as well. So I don't want to talk trash on him. I've already said what I said about him. Like he's asking for fights he knows he can't get, so he can talk all he wants. And they'll keep giving him guys like this until he gets there. If they were confident in him, what'd they do with Pereira? He had 1 or 2 fights and he was fighting for the belt, right?
Or Hamzat. I
mean,
you'd start seeing
if they were confident in him,
quick.
that's what he'd be doing.
Yeah.
But he's not. He hasn't fought anyone to get put up there that fast. So we'll see if they fast track him after this or not. But this fight's not really going to tell us anything about Bo Nickel.
The guy that he's fighting is professional 7-0. He's got a handful of decisions, a handful of KOs and TKOs, which tells me he's a striker. I did look him up, and you should check out the picture of him on SureDog. He's a specimen. The dude's pretty jacked.
He is jacked.
He looks like a big dude. They list him at 185. And
go to his record.
7-0.
So, what is his opponent's records? Can you see them from there?
I can't. I'd have to go in and dig into each one of them. The last dude that he beat was 30-17. Dude before that was 17-9. Dude before that, guy named Brandon Johnson, Boss Hog, is 3-4. So I think he climbed up a little bit, but 5-3 for a guy named Miles Amos. So I mean, but again, these are combat night. This is all that he's ever been in. One guy's 1-4. So he took a unanimous decision from Luis Sergio Melo Jr., who was 30-17. He was in Bellator for a short stint, and that looks like that's the notch on his resume, is this one dude right here. So he hasn't fought anybody noteworthy, it looks like.
So again, we're not going to find out anything new about Bo Nickel in this fight.
Hard to bet against him though on this.
Oh yeah,
short notice,
money.
never
Easy
been
money.
in the UFC.
Yeah, easy.
In fact, I think they said, I heard somewhere that this is the largest spread in UFC history. I don't remember what it was. I saw plus or minus 1,800, but I don't know if it went farther than that. And I know you were saying that that Luke has been even bigger than that.
Yeah, I mean, that's not in the UFC, but I thought I remember Ronda being crazy over Holly Holm, in the thousands as well. I just don't remember what it was, but
No.
regardless.
I had seen that, and I think Bo's comment was, yeah, that's about right. So he's coming in with a little bit of confidence on it.
Two of the tallest guys, I think, in the 155 division, right?
Oh, that's interesting. So Jalen Turner, the Tarantula, comes in at 6'3" and 155. Dang.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a basketball player. And then Dan Hooker, he's coming in at 6 foot.
Yeah,
155.
155.
6'3", that could be end up a decent reach advantage.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is the tallest guy in the division. 22-12 for Hooker, 13-6 for Jalen Turner. I think it's a great fight. I think it's going to be an exciting fight. They clearly want to see two guys striking. They're both good strikers. Dan Hooker, really good striker, but he got knocked out by Michael Chandler. I think Chandler kind of overwhelmed him a little bit, and it was Chandler's first fight in the UFC, so he may have been underestimating him coming from Bellator. But
he's also got recent losses to Makhachev, Arnold Allen, and you can put in a Poirier loss in there as well. But Hooker's one of those guys. You just he's a little bit like Cerrone a little bit for me.
Kind of a gatekeeper.
Kind of always around.
Yeah.
Like to root for him.
If you beat him, you'll get someone real tough next.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
so who do you like?
I'm going to go with Jalen Turner. I would like to see Dan Hooker win.
Okay.
But I'm going to go with Jalen Turner.
Age isn't really a factor. Dan Hooker's coming 33, so he's right peaking in his career right now.
Yep.
Do you think the UFC looked at when they're lining this up and they look at Bo Nickel going first, probably getting it up on the ground, and then they throw Jalen Turner and Dan Hooker right after him to get a nice stand-up fight?
Yeah, for sure.
So you said you're taking Jalen Turner?
Yep.
Robert Whittaker and Dricus du Plessis.
Robert Whittaker is one of my favorites, man. I was so bummed when he lost to Israel Adesanya. He is also an Australia guy or South Africa, or not South Africa, New Zealand, sorry.
Yeah.
New Zealand or Australia, I don't know which one, because I think he lives in one and used to train in the other. He's from one and trains in the other. But I watched him fight Israel Adesanya live at Marvel Stadium in Melbourne, Australia.
Oh, Melbourne?
Yeah, and it was amazing. It was, I don't know what the crowd was, but it was somewhere around 100,000. Like, it was like the biggest UFC, gigantic arena, and it was very cool. And I think it started at like 6 a.m. Over there. And so I taught a seminar early in the morning just so we could go straight to the UFC from there. It was cool.
That's awesome.
Du Plessis is very tough. I think these are actually two guys that would have given Alex Pereira a tough fight.
Sure.
Wrestling wise, they wouldn't have. They caused more of a stylistic issue than Izzy did. So it'll be interesting to see this fight. I want to pull for Whittaker. I know Dricus is 19-2.
Yeah.
Hard to bet against a guy that's lost 2 times only out of 21 fights.
He's only got 5 fights in the UFC.
Yeah.
And really, I feel like, he's got Derek Brunson and Darren Till. He finished both of them. TKO for Brunson and a submission. They're calling it a face crank deep into the 3rd round. On Till.
Till quit in that fight. I don't know if you remember that. He literally turned over and quit.
Yeah.
Before it was even a choke.
I like what du Plessis is doing right now.
Yeah.
But you look at Bobby Knuckles, and this guy's, he's lost to Adesanya twice.
Yep.
But he's got Romero. He beat Romero twice in a row. He's got Brunson, Ronaldo Souza, Uriah Hall. You start looking, he's
Who's his last loss that wasn't Izzy?
Wonder Boy in 2014.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with Whitaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull with Whitaker.
I like Duplessis.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I just think that that is a. I think stylistically, it's going to be a great fight for Whitaker.
Is this a stand-up fight, or do you think?
I think he wrestles him.
Whitaker takes him to the ground.
I think he ends up wrestling him. Yeah.
And that would be the smart play, because I don't know that Duplessis has got the ground game that's going to hang with.
Not if he's on his
Whitaker,
back.
right?
I mean, neither one of them are really going to be fighting fantastically off their back.
Yeah. I think it'll be good, but my humble opinion is Bobby Knuckles.
Yep.
Co-main. Super interested about this one. We were talking about this before we hit record.
Yep.
Brandon Moreno versus Alessandre Pantoja.
Yeah. Pantoja's beat him twice.
Yeah.
I am a gigantic Brandon Moreno fan.
Huge.
We got to train with him at Glory when we were up there. We've kept in touch since then and talked.
Legos. That's all I can think about.
Legos, right. There was still Legos all over the house that we stayed in that Brandon stayed at before us.
Yeah.
But he's training here in Dallas now at Fortis, or he's doing camps in and out of here. He looked good in his last fight.
He did.
It'll be interesting. We'll see what's changed on him. So when Pantoja beat him, it was the first Brandon Moreno. The Brandon Moreno that came to the UFC, fought a couple times, lost, got cut, went back through the show, came back, got back into the UFC, and became the champion. The show might have actually been before he.
It was
cut.
Because this is technically number 3. The first one was on the show. The second one was in 2016.
Right.
And Pantoja 10-8'd him in the first. I mean, it was a unanimous 10-8 with the score. He ended up losing 30-26.
Okay. So I feel like. So it's only got Pantoja listed at 5'4". And Brandon at 5'6". I don't know why I thought he was taller, but
when I watched that fight, they looked pretty equal to me. I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't
I
notice a height difference.
I really got to go with Brandon on the fight. I just feel like if he fought any of the guys that beat him early on, that he would beat them. He would beat them now.
Okay.
He's such a different fighter. He's got so much more confidence being the champ now. I think it's a great fight. I think it's a difficult fight. But I think that he pulls it off. I think he had more to learn to beat Pantoja than Pantoja to change things for Brandon. You know what I mean? And I think that they were able to. I'm sure, Safe. This is his first champion. Now that he's at his gym, I'm sure he dug deep on what can we change, what can we do, what can we do differently this time to get the win. And so I'm gonna go with Brandon on this. Just because this is me. Well, I always say don't bet with your heart.
Bet with your, yeah.
Well, I'm betting with my heart.
Brandon's got his own gym now, Assassin Baby Fight Team, I think Vegas is what it's called, something like that. And I'm sure he can bring in, but it's hard, and I know he trains out of Dallas, but when you own your own gym, now you're top dog.
Yeah.
So is he bringing in the right
I
people?
don't know if his gym is like a big giant public gym with lots, or if it's just private. His crew, and that's what I thought.
Yep.
That's what I thought. Because they were doing that at the PI before they came to Glory. He was living there, but they were training at the PI all the time. And he said, I talked to him and a couple of his guys, and they talked about opening a small space there for them to train in.
Yep.
So I'm sure they bring Safe in and a couple of guys, and then my buddy Fernie that trains here and at Fortis went, he's been to Vegas to work with Brandon with Safe, so I'm sure there's a lot of back and forth going on, but I feel like he's improved enough to get it done. He's 21-6, and Pantoja's 25-5. Very similar records.
Pantoja training at ATT.
Yeah.
Is that, when you think about the fight style, what does ATT bring for Pantoja that makes him tougher against Moreno? Is there anything specific that they bring?
Other than a great room with a lot of great training partners, and people to mimic Brandon, They obviously have good coaches as well, but I feel like I'm going to go back and be like, Brandon is the one who is able to, make up the improvement to beat him. It's kind of like in motocross. A lot of times, if there is a guy following this guy, the second place guy is actually in a better position a lot of times, because any line that this guy takes, he's seeing everything he does, and he's seeing where a place is to pass.
Yep.
And now the pressure's on this guy.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
To not screw up.
Yeah.
Got it.
And so a lot of times it's not bad to be in second place for the first half of the race, to read and then make your move. Brandon, although is the champ, and is the pressure would be on him as the champ. I don't think that pressure's on him as the champ. I think it's I want to get that loss back, or those 2 losses back.
Yes.
And so I think Pantoja is the one with the pressure that he needs to not let that happen. You know what I mean? I think he needs to try everything he can to not let that happen, and I just feel like Brandon is going to be he's going to come out on top.
This is a lot like Israel and Alex Pereira. I mean, it's a very similar.
It is.
Storyline.
Hopefully, it ends one fight sooner than the other one did.
Yeah. I got to be on. I think Moreno's awesome. I love hearing about it. I don't bet either. If I were to bet, I'd put my money on Pantoja.
Would you?
I would. Just watching, and part of it may be recency bias. Just watching that first fight and just watching him just obliterate Brandon. And I know Brandon's a different fighter, but then you look to see what Pantoja has done since then. Alex Perez, Brandon Royval, you watch those fights and he eats him up.
Yeah.
He's got to win against Matt Schnell for the podcast. He did lose to Davison, but I don't know.
How?
Man. He lost to Davison, unanimous decision, win all 3 rounds.
Brandon has been fighting higher caliber guys way more recently than Pantoja. For one, he had 3, right? Or 4.
With Davison, Kaikara France, Davison.
Yeah.
4 out of his last 5 fights.
Who was before that?
Brandon Royval and Jussier
Formiga.
Yep, I think Kaikara France. Askarov.
Yeah. He's been through it. And he was winning those, right?
I got a draw against Askar and a draw against Davidson, famously the one loss against Davidson, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting to say. I don't know that I've ever. I don't even say I'm betting against you, but usually I'm in lockstep.
I mean, you could be right. I just hope you're not. I just hope you're not.
Like a blind squirrel gets a nut every once in a while, man.
Right.
I don't know if I'm going to get it, but just looking at it, I think it's going to be a good fight either way, though.
Cool.
Final fight, the title,
event.
the main event is going to be fun too. Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez. Yair's the interim champion.
Yeah.
Because Volkanovski went up to fight Islam Makhachev. Gave us a great showing there, but didn't come out with the win. So I think, was it the same night that Yair fought and got the interim title? Was that the same
It
fight?
may have been. But man, did he look good that night.
Yeah, it was. It was the same night.
It was.
UFC 284 in February. Yeah, and Josh, he put it to Josh.
He did. His left body kick was so nasty.
Yeah.
And so violent.
Yeah.
And he threw it with zero regard of if he would catch an elbow, if he would catch it. It was just 1,000% on every kick. And I was just like, oh my God, his body. And he tore him up with it. And then was landing, he's very dynamic on the feet. As tough as Volkanovski is and as good as he is on the feet, he needs to wrestle in this fight. He needs to fight outside and all the way inside. Okay. He does not want to fight in the middle at all. I don't know what the reach difference is. I know Yair's tall, but Volkanovski has longer reach than a lot of people, so it might not be too crazy.
So Rodriguez comes in at 5'11".
Yeah, he's tall.
I don't see reach on this one. Yeah, 5'11" and 145. And then Volkanovski is 5'6". I wonder if
he's
we
short,
can,
but he has long arms.
Here we go. I think I can get the tail of the tape on this one right here. It's in centimeters. I wish I wish UFC didn't do that because I don't know any of it. But if you're looking at centimeters, the reach is actually Volkanovski. It's almost identical. It's 181.6 centimeters versus 180.3. So we're talking, a centimeter.
Who's longer? Yair?
No, Volkanovski.
Volkanovski is at 5'6". He's longer than the guy that's 5'11".
Yeah, he's got
wild.
gorilla arms.
That is
man.
wild.
These things are
So I think Volkanovski beats him.
Okay.
I think he fights a very smart fight, hopefully, and Yair is just too dynamic to fight him, in a firefight. I don't know that he has the knockout power that Volkanovski may have. I don't think he does, but he definitely has violence.
Is this a boring fight because Volkanovski's gonna Israel Adesanya it and kind of play a little safe?
I don't think so. I think I don't know that he even has that in him.
Okay.
I think it is probably not boring, and I don't think Yair would let it be boring. He's good enough off his back to not let it be a boring fight, even if he is off his back. So I think Volkanovski's got his hands full all night long, but I pick him to win.
Volkanovski, I went and counted it up, and we might have talked about this when we called the Makhachev fight. Before Makhachev, I think he went on a 20-fight win streak.
Yeah.
It was nuts, and a lot of those were in the UFC. Like 12 of them
Savages.
were in the UFC.
Yeah.
And his resume, he's one of my favorite fighters.
That's why he's on the pound-for-pound list.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite fighters. It's hard to pick against Alex. I don't know how you do it.
I'm not. I'm not picking against him. I think he wins. I think it's a hard, long fight.
Does it go all 5?
4-5.
Okay.
It's not going to probably be done before 4-5. Sadly, I think if it is done earlier, I think it's Yair that wins the fight.
Okay.
But I think that Volkanovski, I think he wins the fight, and if it's a 5-rounder, 4-1.
Alex made a claim earlier today that if he loses to anybody in the division right now, it's going to be because they catch him with a lucky punch. It's real arrogant, but at the same time, it's hard to disagree with that. I don't know if anybody's got.
I don't disagree with him, but I also don't think there's a lucky punch.
Okay.
If he threw the punch, it wasn't on accident.
Okay.
It wasn't lucky.
I guess if Leon Edwards taught us anything,
right,
it's that it's not a lucky punch.
And if Volkanovski gets hit with it, it's because he was there, right? He was in the way of the punch,
Yeah.
So it's very, very, I think that no one really beats him in the division, but I think if they do, it's because they prepared for it, and they landed something that they may have seen, but I don't know about a lucky punch.
Cool.
There's not a lot of luck in this sport.
It's going to be a good
It's very
card.
unforgiving.
I actually think starting off with Lawler and going all the way through the Bo Nickel fight, it'll be interesting, maybe. But I think everything after that, the last 4 fights, it's a can't-miss card.
Yeah. Cool. All right, guys. We'll see what happens over the weekend. We'll talk about it on Monday. Thank you.
It is all over, just like that.